Hey, y'all. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to ToddReynolds.Live. In fact, now with its own website. So, thank you very much for if you're catching this in real time, then you'll know that we had to delay for you a little bit. So we're very happy to be here now. Really happy to see you. If you've got some comments, anything to say, do put it in the chat. We're happy to field those, and I want to say hi to everybody I possibly can. We've got a whole bunch of folks behind the scenes today working, which is awesome. And this first tune was called, well, it's actually still unnamed, and I'm now calling it by number. This is from a collection called the Milltown collection. Wonderful mill up in Maine, near Bates College, where the great dance festival is. And a few years ago, I wrote a piece for a building, actually, for a big mill that used to make bedspreads, and also it was a wool mill. And this piece was choreographed by Stephen Koplowitz, site-specific choreographer with whom I've worked for a long time. And it was a great pleasure to work with him and his crew and his movers and shakers. So this was a tune that was written for choreography on the Bleach building in right there in town. So pretty soon, probably within the next year, I'm going to release a record of this Milltown collection. Really looking forward to sharing that with you and all the tunes associated with it. So that's what we started out with today. Let's see who's here. Oh, Gudrun is here. Wow. Jake is here. Victor Cahiao. Guy Cochran. Aaron Huslage. Imagine that. Jordan Bartow. Great student. Great cellist. One of my students from Manhattan over the past couple of years. Really one of the people really sad to see graduate. But yeah, Jordan, thanks for stopping by. Ken Jordan is here. Later on, we'll pull up the browser and show you ToddReynolds.Live, which is a brand new portion of my web presence, where all of this stuff, the stream is actually playing there right now, I believe. I haven't checked, but it should be playing there. And we'll bring it up a little bit later and show you around there. It's something that'll grow and change as we move forward. So we are, Mike Lowenstern is here. Hey, fantastic. Mike Lowenstern, Earspasm Music from Las Vegas, Nevada. Go check out his YouTube channel, earspasm.com. Awesome. Actually, it's just Earspasm on YouTube. Anyway, Jake, my father-in-law, the father-in-law to me, the father of my love, Isabel Holmes. Hey, Manolo Lozano is here too. Fantastic. Yeah, Ken's in the UK. Ken Jordan's in the UK. Great. Excellent. So I'm seeing all these comments. This is the first time. Hey, Macachor from Office Hours is here too. This is the first time for a bunch of things. The first time that I've got my friend Mickey Macachor in the back end supporting an audio today. We've completely rerouted the system. Just so you know, I've got 5 people, 6 people, 7 people who worked with us on this stream. They'll be in some credits at the very end, so you'll get to know their names. Yeah, as they chuckle in the background. So this is the first time that we're using John Barker's H2R graphics. There's all sorts of lovely software employed here. Isadora, which you'll see in just a minute, which is a wonderful nodal program along the lines of what I'm familiar with Cycling 74's Max MSP. So for those of you who are in here and are my friends and know all of the software travels that I make, I'm playing through Ableton Live, and the visuals are coming through in those different ways. So Edgar Moan, nice to see you. Josh Kaufman's here. Joe Kelly. Wow. Okay, fantastic. So let me introduce you to the work of my friend Tlaloc Miguel Lopez Waterman. we're going to do some real-time composing and visualizing for you. Tlaloc works in Isadora. He's a lighting designer, lighting artist, and a visual artist. And the last stream that we did, Tlaloc did some visual art as well. So that's going to be kind of in the mix here as we go on and play together for about 20 minutes or so. And then after that, we got a special guest for you in Tony Mobley. We arranged this just this morning, so I'm very, very happy to say that my friend Tony Mobley is with us. And then we're going to play some Mike Lowenstern Crossroads at the end. So it's going to be this will be something for Michael that he's never seen, that's for sure. So that'll be a nice surprise for him as well. So if you've got comments, put them in, and we'll bring them up and we'll talk about them. If you have any questions about what we're doing here, how I make my music or whatever, of course your questions are always welcome. But first of all, just happy to see you there. Oh yeah, and you know what? I just realized my AC is on. So although it's a great frequency of white noise, we can probably do better without it. Let me go. Somebody cut to something else. The best laid plans of mice and men. So anyway, Tlaloc is here and he's here, and you're seeing his work already. So let's play some music for you. Whoops. Thank you, Tlaluk. I got to see some of that. Anyway, Tlaluk Miguel Lopez Waterman on the visual art that you saw inside there. I should mention a few other people who probably don't want to be mentioned because they're behind the scenes working magic, but Aaron is our director today and making all the calls, which he doesn't realize that I'm hearing in my ear completely the whole time. That makes it an actual collaboration, and so that's kind of more fun for me than just playing alone in my studio. Anyway, let's look at the chat. Valorine Foxfire got you on the big sound system here. Wow, that's really awesome. This is almost 400 years in the making. Robert Reynolds was, I can't see those chat comments anymore. There we go. So let's see. This is almost 400 years in the making. Robert Reynolds was born in England about 1580. Wow. Okay, something that I might have missed there. Was I modulating that cool loop early on? Who asked that? That was Jake Holmes. Yes, I was. Yeah, all the loops got modulated and cut into and glitched and weirded out. Joe Callie says, I like the slight opacities so that we can see his hands and bow, right? That's that's what makes it so much fun. I did my own streams for a year, and then I got this incredible opportunity to connect with some friends and make stuff together, which we're doing for you today. And for the first time on YouTube only and not kind of streaming to all the other platforms. So I guess this is probably this is a really good time. This is a good time for me to, what was I just going to say? This is a really good time for me to mention that if you're on YouTube and joining us on YouTube, if you would consider subscribing for any future feeds. We're going to be here every 2 weeks amping up this stream. So that's the real fun part, is that we'll be here next on the 23rd, and we're going to start a little earlier and make sure we hit our 3 o'clock. So come at 3 o'clock again on the 23rd. That will be fun. And pretty much every 2 weeks after that, we're alternating with our friends in Belfast at the Accidental Theatre. And it's kind of a takeover project. It's a takeover project where folks from this group called Office Hours basically wire into each other's home. I've got a bunch of folks running all my gear here, not all the musical gear, that's all mine, but the cameras and all the networking and stuff is courtesy of Jim Hankins and Mickey Macachor and Aaron Huslage and Jonas Dautel, and all of these great folks who have become my friends over the past few months in after hours. So shout out to all those folks in there. So George Kennedy says, change the lights in my room just for that. Oh, you changed the lights? Is that what you mean, George? You changed the lights for that one? That's great. Oh, Jordan likes my haircut. Jordan, thank you so much. David Brady, this one goes back to you. Back to you. Thanks for all the lovely comments, everybody. That's really fantastic. John Barker's here too. We're using John Barker's program called Here to Record. H2R Graphics, Here to Record Graphics. So you should go check that one out too. I'm going to see if I can't get these out of my ears right now so I can concentrate just a little bit more. I can't seem to. So yeah, H2R Graphics is managing all the comments and everything on the streams today. So we're really thankful to John Barker for the software that he has written. So that's that. Let's see. Oh, first Reynolds in America was Robert Reynolds, Joe. I see. Joe Kelly says first Reynolds in America was Robert Reynolds. Excellent. Okay. Let's see. What's next? Anybody? Let me go back through these comments. Love the modular kit. Who is DJ? I'm trying to find you. Nick Pavlinak is here. I really like the mix of graphics and the very visual music. Cool. That's a real honor. When you make music and folks come at you with I can see stuff when I hear that music in my head. That's a real honor, at least for me as a musician. I hope for every musician. Sharon Baker is here. Yep, you're right, Michael. I had a whoops. Sensei Skyer. There we go. David Brady. Right. Lots of good stuff. Hey, Alex Lindsay is here. Thanks for coming, Alex. And Macachor wants to know where craft services is. Boy, I'm going to say that Isabel and I are after this day. Oh, after this day, I think we'll have to go out and get some wings, some of our favorite. Tom Rothrock is here. Fantastic. I should have known DJ would have been Tom Rothrock. There we go. Excellent. All right. So we're going to move on pretty soon. In fact, right now to our special guest. So if Tony's ready, let's just bring him on, and we'll talk to Tony Mobley. Now, some folks on this chat will absolutely know Tony. Tony is a friend of all of ours. He started his own video podcast on YouTube called Conversations with Tony Mobley quite a while ago now. He'll tell us how long ago, but I think we're like 8 episodes in. And in fact, I have the honor of being a guest on his video cast next Wednesday. So Conversations with TonyMobley.com is his website. You can visit him there and find out all the stats for all the things that he does on Wednesday night. And come join us. It's 8 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday. So I'll be hanging out with Tony and a lot of great special guests, including Tlaloc Waterman, who's here with us today. So Tony, we got Tony. Tony, there you are. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing fantastic, Todd. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and participate in this conversation. I am wowed. This is amazing.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's great to have you here. There's a real specific thing that I wanted to talk with you about today, and one of the reasons I had you on. This all came, as you know, and just informing our audience that this idea of having Tony come in as a guest to my show happened all this morning. And it was at the recommendation of Tlaloc, and I'm really glad I reached out to you and that you're here with us. Thanks for coming. Going to tell our audience a little story about what's going to happen next. My best friend, Mike Lowenstern, who is on the stream today, and is a phenomenal musician, and he's kind of like the brother that I never had. He is my brother, and so Michael, in his infinite wisdom, when I asked him to write a piece for me back before I did my record, this would have been 2009 or 10, I forget when, but Mike decided that he would write a duet for me and the great blues guitarist and singer Robert Johnson. Now, Robert Johnson, he's not an enigma at all. We know quite a bit about him, but there are like 2 pictures and no video of Robert Johnson. His biggest output of recorded music was 1937 and 1938. So we're talking about the end of the war at this point. So Michael wrote this piece for me called Crossroads, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the story of, Johnny and the Golden Fiddle from Charlie Daniels, Devil Went Down to Georgia, Crossroads, of course, Eric Clapton covered this, L'Histoire du Soldat by Igor Stravinsky. These are all the same story of, the devil basically making a wager to take somebody's soul if they can't outdo him. And so that is what Crossroads is about. So then, moving over to Robert Johnson, I think any of you who have been on my streams before have often heard me say that American music is black music. We owe everything to our great African American community from the start for all of the music that we listen to in pop music, in blues. It all originates there. And even far back from that, it it originates in Mali, where the blues really comes from Mali, Africa. So this is kind of, the musical center of America for me, is in the South and is in the Black community. And today, as we began to pull this stream together, all of us wanted to involve as many people at one time as we could. So I began this conversation with Aaron Huslage and Manolo Lozano, who is in Spain, who teaches documentary filmmaking there. And I said, hey, could we? I'm sorry, he's in UK, but he's from Spain, and I said, hey, could we pull some newsreels together from that time to just kind of take a look at what was happening there around the time that Robert Johnson was recording this music. So Manolo edited this beautiful piece, but whenever one begins to string along images, especially as a person, as a Caucasian person, someone who and then puts Black people up on a screen, there is an incredible amount of anxiety, at least for me, that we are telling stories and having dialogues and conversations which forward the action past the great difficulty and wrongs. It's not difficulty. The great difficulty we have in our nation to converse and to have dialogue about it, but which begin to address the great inequity in our country with regard to race. So I wanted to bring my friend Tony on so that we could have a conversation about this film that Manolo made for us, because we're about to play that as I play Crossroads for the last part of the stream. So so that's why, Tony, you're here. So we played the film for you this morning, and I know everybody else hasn't seen it, so it's kind of awkward to talk about something that nobody's seen. But I wanted to talk about that time. I don't actually know when you came into the world, Tony, when you were born. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what we were talking this morning about the representation in film and video of the community and your feelings about it.
So I was born in 1958. So that is 2 years before the 60s, right? So interesting kind of background. So I grew up in Brick City, which is called Newark, New Jersey, but I was actually born in Norfolk, Virginia. And my mother came to Newark and began to work as a domestic, and my father worked in a lot of physical labor. I guess most recently his work was, not most recently, but when I knew who he was working as a parking attendant at a large office space. And so it was a very bustling experience for all of the people who lived in Newark at that time, because it was pre-riots. So there was a lot of economic activity. There was a lot of, everybody had a job that wanted a job. There was a lot of different activities and things that were going on. And so I can't really speak to those things in terms of how things actually were going, but I knew that, my mother would send me to the store sometime, and we lived in an apartment where she could look out of the window and see me go to the store, come from the store, and nobody would bother me. And it was a different time. But one of the things that I think is unique about that time is that because my father was reared in Orlando, Florida before Disney World, we would have occasion to go to Florida every summer for 2 weeks. And one of the things that we dealt with during that time was driving from Newark, New Jersey to Orlando, Florida. During that time, there was no opportunity to stay in a hotel. And so along the way, you had to know someone that you could stop and stay with, or you had to park on the side of the road if you wanted to try to get some rest during that drive. So it was a kind of, I remember asking my mother why we couldn't stay in a motel. I didn't know anything about hotels at that time. Why we couldn't stay at a motel. And she would say that, it's just not something that we can do right now. So those times were kind of interesting in that my mother was a different kind of person. She did not accept her circumstances. She always wanted to go beyond her circumstances. And the community that I grew up in, the majority of those people who lived in that community did not do anything but stay inside that circle. I was already ahead of the game to a certain extent in the fact that we would travel to Orlando, Florida for those 2 weeks. But one of the things that she did, because Newark is so close to New York City, is that she made it her responsibility to take us to Broadway plays, Radio City Music Hall, museums, libraries. That was something that she thought was important. And at the same time, as things were escalating in terms of African Americans or blacks were dealing with their unfair treatment in this country at that time. So things began to escalate, and there was a sort of temperature rising in terms of the way people saw themselves and presented themselves. And so one of the unique things about watching the video earlier this afternoon presented for me some views that I had not seen. So one of the things that I noticed in the video was that there were a large number of people of color at a cricket game, and they were in a stadium, and they were participating in this activity that based on my experience, I didn't know that black people did that. And it wasn't just a few people, it was a lot of people. And some of the other images were, I think, extremely important. There was images of black military men who were participating in the war, and there were all of these positive images of people of color that people of color have not had an opportunity to see. So it was kind of striking for me in that I saw these images and I was like, wow, why have I not seen these images? And so I'm gonna say something a little bit maybe controversial for Todd right now. So one of the things that I wrestle with is that I want to see in media a balance. There are a lot of images of people of color that are comical or they are images of them as singers. Mm-hmm. They're images of them as professional athletes. But there are those images of Black educators, of lawyers and doctors, those professionals that are not seen as much as they often should be seen. Mm. And so it's important that there is, as I said, a balance, an opportunity for people to see themselves as something other than an entertainer. Mm-hmm. We know that those images exist, but we don't get a chance to see them in media. And so, if there's a way in which, that's kind of what I'm trying to do with conversations. That's part of it. That I think that, and a lot of the people who are watching this are a part of the Office Hours community, and Office Hours has had the opportunity to break down barriers and to be able to have an exchange and interaction with people all over the world. And there's this camaraderie and this communication that exists. And part of the roots of Conversation with Tony Mobley is that I wanted people who are not a part of that community to have an opportunity to have an exchange of ideas and expression, although we talk about video production, but there is more to it than that. There is this idea that you're able to break down the things that separate you, religion, race, politics, and have a conversation and get to know the real person. That, I think, is the spirit of Office Hours that I'm trying to share in Conversation with Tony Mobley. So, when I saw those images, I'm very interested in being able to share those images with others. We had a conversation about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago where there was this conversation about greatest stories never told. These images fit perfectly with that. And so you have this story of a Black aviator and his Black pilot who flew across the United States and had to deal with the fact that they had to wrestle with whether or not it was safe to land there, whether they're going to be able to get fuel for the plane, were they going to be able to do the necessary repairs to get to the next location. And so this is probably more than what you wanted, Todd, but you got me started. So I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. And in fact, it is exactly what I wanted. And in fact, it's not controversial for me. And I concur so heartily. And as you talk, I realize that even in just kind of quickly, wanting to broach the subject, it always calls for more time. It always calls for multiple conversations. And yes, as a person of privilege, I walk out into the world very, very cautiously, even in approaching those conversations myself. So I thank you for all of that. And in fact, I want to call to mind once again that on next Wednesday, which is October 13th at 8:00, Tony has invited me to be a guest on his show. Communication, conversation, and representation. These things are what we need more of, I think, Tony. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for coming, Tony. I'm going to play this video will accompany Crossroads by Michael Lowenstern. one of my favorite pieces of all time. It is on my record. You can find all those details at ToddReynolds.com. And I think this is going to be our hurrah. This film has a real wonderful attention paid to it by Manolo Lozano. Thank you, Manolo, for making this, for pulling this footage together in a way that tells a story of before the war, during the war, and after the war. And as Tony says, with images of people that we need to see more of. We need to see more. All right, that's it. So let me just check in on the chat one more time before we go on. If I may see that chat. There's chat. Sharon is still there with us. And cool, Todd Willis. Okay, good enough. It looks like I can't actually gain access to much more of the chat today, so I'll apologize for that. Please do come see us on October 23rd. We'll be back 3 o'clock. It's a Saturday, and we'll kick this thing up to the next notch. All right. So let me make sure I have everything I need here. Got to take some effects off. Also, whoa, too much. Okay, I don't know where it's all coming from. I got to make sure it goes away though. So let me make sure that I take all of this away. Cannot figure this out. It's worth figuring out though. So and I can't get to it. Okay. I have no idea. All right. Today, Crossroads is going to have a little delay on it. You ready, everybody? Here we go. On a stream, I'm stopping this. I'm calling it. You can stop the video, Aaron. Yeah, excellent. So, okay, here we go. So we're going to stop that. So, we'll edit this and load it back on YouTube. For those of you who are sticking with us, this is one of those technical moments that just so you know happens because we ran out of time because of a big network storm. So I finally found my delay. I can play this piece for you the way I want to. We can play this video the way I want to. So thank you for your patience. And everybody, let's do this again. You ready? Last tune. No, I didn't find it. Hold on. One more time, let's test it. There we go. Finally. Here we go, Aaron. It's worth it. I don't have my mouse. Oh, there we go. Whoops. Right? I can't believe it. Okay, we're going to stop it and do it one more time. Here we go. We are starting now.
I went to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. I went to the crossroads, fell down on my knees. And the Lord of mercy, please forgive me.